When you hear the name Albert Einstein, what comes to mind? Probably E equals mc squared, right? The wild hair, the genius who totally flipped physics on its head. But there was this whole other side to him, a philosopher, really. And his ideas on how to live a better life, they're just as mind-blowing. So today, we're diving into Einstein's guide to a wiser life. So let's start with a big question. What does it even mean to be a genius? I mean, we throw that word around thinking it's some kind of superpower you're born with. But what if the guy who practically defines genius for all of us had a completely different take on it? Get this. He once said, "I have no special talents." I mean, seriously? From Einstein? It sounds like he's just being humble, right? But he was dead serious. He believed the real secret to his mind wasn't some gift from the universe. Nope. It was something else entirely. And here's the other half of that quote. "I am only passionately curious." That's it. That's the key that unlocks his entire way of thinking. For Einstein, the engine wasn't some pre-installed genius software. It was a relentless, almost childlike curiosity. And that one simple idea, it forces us to rethink everything we thought we knew about intelligence. And that idea is the perfect kickoff for our first section here, rethinking intelligence. Because for Einstein, it was never about what you know, it was all about how you think. It's all about the power of imagination. And wow, this next quote just nails his point perfectly. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Think about that for a second. He argued that knowledge, yeah, it's useful, but it's basically a record of the past. It's all the stuff we've already figured out. But imagination? That's the portal to everything we haven't figured out yet. It's the engine that drives all progress, all new ideas. And you can see that breakdown right here. On one side, you've got knowledge. It's practical, sure. It gets you from point A to point B. It's what you can look up in a book. But look at the other side, imagination. It gets you everywhere. He even called it a preview of life's coming attractions. I love that. It's the power to see what doesn't exist yet, but totally could. He was even a little critical of traditional education. He worried that focusing too much on just memorizing facts could actually stamp out the very curiosity that learning is supposed to spark. For him, a real education wasn't about cramming your brain full of data. It was about training your mind to ask questions, to wonder, and to think for itself. Okay, so if imagination beats knowledge, how does that actually change the way we tackle problems? Well, that leads us right into our second section, the arts of problem solving. And it's all about learning to think differently. Oh, you gotta love this quote. It just completely turns our modern obsession with life hacks and quick fixes on its head. Einstein's whole approach was to, fall in love with the problem itself, to really sit with it, understand all its little corners and hidden assumptions before even thinking about jumping to a solution. You can actually boil his method down to 3 key steps. First, like we just said, you have to deeply understand the question. Don't rush it. Second, and this is huge, he said you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created it. You've got to shift your perspective, get on a different level. And third, in the middle of all that chaos and complexity, the goal is always simplicity. As he put it, out of clutter, find simplicity. And you know what? A process like that, it means you can't be afraid to mess up. For Einstein, making mistakes wasn't a sign you were failing. It was proof that you were actually pushing the boundaries. It was just the price you pay for trying something new. Now, this whole way of thinking wasn't just for figuring out the universe. Einstein applied the exact same logic to one of the biggest questions we all face. How do you live a good life? And that brings us to his formula for living, which puts value way, way above what we normally think of as success. And this right here is the heart of it. He saw chasing success, the money, the fame, the social media likes, as kind of an empty game. A person of value, though, that's someone who gives more to the world than they take. Your worth isn't measured by what you have, but by what you give. And of course, he had a formula for a happy life. It's a bit quirky. So A equals X plus Y plus Z, where X is your work, Y is play, and Z is keeping your mouth shut, which is just a brilliant, funny reminder to work hard, have fun, and maybe know when to just listen. He was also a big believer that you can't pin your happiness on other people or things. When you do that, your happiness becomes super fragile, right? It depends on stuff you can't control. But if you tie it to an internal goal, to a purpose that really drives you, well, that's a foundation that can't be easily shaken. So when it all comes down to it, what does it really mean to be that person of value? For Einstein, it was simple. The most worthwhile life you can live is one that's lived for others. That's where your own personal value finds its deepest, most powerful meaning. And that idea leads us perfectly into our final section. We're going to zoom out now from the individual to Einstein's bigger picture view on humanity, society, and our tiny little place in the cosmos. And honestly, his wisdom here feels more important right now than ever before. Einstein knew that if you try to shake things up, if you challenge the way things have always been done, it's not going to be easy. People will push back. So this quote is a really powerful reminder. If you're trying to do something great and you're meeting resistance, don't get discouraged. It's often a sign you're on exactly the right path. And when he looked at the world, he saw that trying to keep peace with force just doesn't work. He believed that real, lasting peace never comes from having a bigger weapon or making a bigger threat. It comes from doing the hard, messy, but absolutely essential work of trying to understand each other. And this is his grand vision for all of us. He saw our own little egos as a kind of prison that we trap ourselves in, and he believed that our most important job in life is to break out of that prison. And how do we do that? By widening our circle of compassion, to go beyond just ourselves, our family, our country, and embrace all living things and the whole of nature itself. And we can't wrap this up without this classic quote. It's that perfect Einstein mix of cosmic wonder and biting humor. It just says it all, doesn't it? The absolute awe he felt when he looked up at the stars, mixed with a very down-to-earth observation about, well, us. And that brings us right back to the beginning. Einstein got it. He knew that for every answer you find, a dozen new questions pop up. He said that as our circle of knowledge gets bigger, the edge of the darkness we don't understand gets bigger too. So the real lesson from his incredible life isn't a list of answers. It's an invitation to stay passionately curious, to never ever stop learning, and to just embrace the big, beautiful mystery of it all. So the only question left for you is, what will you choose to question next?